Good evening, everyone. Tonight is a workshop with the Caribou Broadband Coalition that's been doing some investigating about bringing broadband to Caribou. And very informal meeting. And Austin, I don't know if you want to go through this presentation here, or if everybody's read it and just wants to ask questions about it, or?
I think it might not hurt to go through the presentation,
Okay.
just so people at home might be able to gain a little better understanding as well. So the purpose of the workshop this evening is for the Broadband Coalition and the City Council to sit down and discuss doing the broadband study with Tilson. And the study would help us gain more knowledge surrounding broadband and the options that exist to make it available to all Caribou citizens. The study would look at 4 different governance and ownership strategies: open access versus controlled access networks, municipality agreeing to anchor a privately owned and operated network, the municipality owning but operated by a third party, and the municipally owned and operated. Tilson will look at these options, suggest a strategy that best fits Caribou's situation, and desired outcomes. First and foremost, no one wants to put the taxpayers on the hook for millions of dollars for no good reason. The study commits the city to gaining knowledge on the topic. We're not spending millions of dollars to build a network. We're trying to learn if building a network is even feasible. We have an opportunity with this study to gain more knowledge about whether or not it makes sense for the city to take control of our destiny and get involved with building out a fiber network. There are several great examples of what a fiber network can do. The city of Ammon, Idaho realized what is possible and is building the internet network of the future. Households and businesses can instantly change internet service providers using a specially designed innovative portal. With this network, they're saving money, creating competition for broadband services, and creating powerful new public safety applications. There's a link to the YouTube video for that one. Sandy, Oregon has implemented a fiber network because the private sector was unable to provide better internet services. A fiber network that connects municipal buildings saves money in telecom costs, enabling better communication across municipal buildings and livability for their citizens. And there's a video link there as well. Some of the concerns that the coalition has heard over the past several months include: if the broadband is already here or will be here in a few years, why would the city get involved? First off, the term broadband is used quite loosely. The FCC defines broadband as 25 megabits per second download speeds and 3 megabits upload. The state defines broadband as 10 megabits for download and upload speeds. Some companies in our area offer these speeds and some do not. The speeds the coalition is seeking is 100 megabits per second download and upload, and potentially even faster. Upload speeds are what is the most important for small and home-based businesses. While some areas of the community can get speeds up to 50 megs, there are many citizens in our community that are without connectivity at all. There's no guarantee that the private company will bring reliable high-speed internet of 100 megs or better to our area. We could be at the will of private companies for when, or even if, we would see these types of speeds available to all citizens. Let's be on the front end of this change and chart our own destiny rather than waiting to see if the private sector will ever decide to bring it to us. Another concern that's heard is the taxpayers will be liable to cover the costs. No one in the room here today could say with 100% confidence that this would cost the taxpayer money. The coalition does not want to push a project forward that would cost the taxpayer money. Another concern is, I don't need faster internet speeds. And while the individual user may not need anything faster than what is delivered today, that's not always the case for every person in town. There are many areas of town that cannot get the internet at all. Getting these people connected would be a huge step forward. Faster internet speeds benefit businesses, and not just businesses that may locate in downtown Caribou, but the small businesses in other parts of our community, or the home-based businesses, or telecommuters. Just like roads and bridges were the driver for economic development in the 1950s, the internet is the driver today. Back in 2000, dial-up internet was good enough for most people, and many people said, I'll never need anything better than that. But as the world continues to change and more things become connected to the internet, the need for more bandwidth that is necessary to operate all of these things will grow. Faster internet speeds can help expand current businesses, bring in new businesses, and bring in telecommuters, provide real-time data processing, and bring better access for cloud-based systems, or even the ability to locate a cloud-based system here. It allows for better communications around the city for police and fire, and it opens the door for education with the 21st century curriculum. Today, the schools of RSU 39 have internet speeds of 100 megs down and up. In talking with the superintendent, with these speeds, they're able to provide additional online-based curriculums, computer programs, and 21st century opportunities for the students because of this. Wouldn't it be great to offer this type of access and connectivity to students and families at home as well? From a January 2015 Portland Press article, Maine has ranked close to the bottom on lists of broadband speeds by state, including a recent based on Ookla Netmetrics data. That said, Maine ranks 49th out of the 50 states, and a recent report from Akamai Technologies That puts Maine at 48th among the U.S. states and far behind countries such as Estonia and Macau. Many citizens believe that we could see more small businesses, more telecommuting jobs, and more distance learning opportunities, and giving young people another reason to stay if we had better access to faster internet. That's from the survey that was done earlier this year, and the full survey results are part of the packet. There's no guarantee when it comes to economic development that anything will work. We spend countless hours trying to come up with new ideas and new ways to attract businesses, families, and tourists to our area. The study is another piece of an overall economic strategy, one the City Council and the Caribou Economic Growth Council discussed at length earlier this year. While this economic development strategy would certainly provide better, faster internet to the citizens of the Caribou, and in some cases provide internet for the first time to citizens of the Caribou, this is not all about getting faster internet speeds for us individually. Yes, that's a part of it, but the larger vision, 95% of the mission of the Broadband Coalition, is to provide state-of-the-art infrastructure for potential businesses, increase resources for existing businesses, retaining the younger generation, recruiting telecommuting jobs, and the list goes on. The Coalition respectfully requests the Council invest in our community to gain the knowledge on the topic that is necessary before writing the idea off completely.
All right, I guess the best way, anyone on council that wants to ask any questions about this part of the presentation to clarify anything?
I want to ask, who's the provider for the school system?
The main school and library network, same as the library. So it's through the state.
And that's publicly owned and operated?
I would assume so.
Okay, thank you.
It's my understanding that the bank, you have high-speed internet at the bank?
With our fiber,
Okay.
which is a little unique to everybody else.
They're not on a public,
Okay.
no one else can access what they have, it's just
Okay.
between their,
But
but it is high speed,
We've-
yeah.
But
we've
it's high
leased-
speed?
We've leased a single fiber from
Okay.
where,
You have a dedicated line.
Okay, so other
then-
banks, other businesses would have that same opportunity? If
I don't
there's, I mean, there's fiber optics apparently on Main Street, fiber optics apparently on High Street, it's in town, so
yeah,
if you can do it, then somebody else, another business or whatever, would also have the same opportunity to do that?
yeah, in most of, I think in most of the cases, they're sharing, because you can put different light frequencies over the single fiber. So people can share pieces of
Okay,
that fiber,
so you've got it.
which is
Okay.
a little different.
John, are you accessing the internet with that? That's a good point. Are you accessing the internet with it, or just
Just between us, yeah.
sharing between
And then we
offices information?
Have to buy DSL or something else to go online.
So they access what's known as an intranet,
Yeah.
not an internet.
And in this study where it says looking at the different strategies, what is municipality agreeing to anchor a privately owned and operated network?
And we'd be one of the largest users on it, as typically what an anchor is when you try and get an anchor at a mall or on a network, you're a big user of it, or a big generator for it.
Okay. What are Caribou's desired outcomes?
The outcome to have internet connectivity, 100 megabits.
Yeah, well, I mean, Tilson would look at these options, suggest a strategy that best fits Caribou's situation and desired outcome. What is Caribou's desired outcome?
The 100 megabits up and down for all citizens is what the stated goal of the Broadband Coalition.
You know, the thing about gaining knowledge on the topic, I mean, there's lots of knowledge out there now. I mean, I don't know what they would tell us that isn't out there available right now publicly.
They would be able to give for Caribou specifically. There's lots of general information about fiber networks that have been operated or are operated in other communities, but this would look specifically at Caribou, what we have, how much it would cost to build out here, those types of things. Yeah, right. It would provide very specific governance and ownership strategies for Caribou.
I'll get into that a little later. I think I have something that's fairly close to Caribou right now, so. the videos that were sent out, and of course, Shane sent one of those out here, I don't know, 2 or 3 weeks ago on Almond. And I guess of any of the ones I've seen, that is the only one that I thought was semi-attractive that I thought would be a good deal, but of course that isn't what this group is looking for either, based on their model, so.
I would disagree with that.
Oh, you would?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We don't have enough information to determine what it is that's best for us right now. That's the whole point of this.
No, but
The
what your
information.
parameters are, and as Austin just said, you want to provide it to 100% of the citizens of Caribou. That's not what Almond's looking at doing.
They're building out in a very strategic fashion now. I think if you get into their information a little bit more, that's where they were heading, taking a strategic approach to it.
Yeah, I mean, I've got into their information quite deeply, actually, so that's why I make the comments I make. I mean,
It's attractive what they did. There's some.
oh, I think the
interesting
way they've
stuff.
set up their system is wonderful. We couldn't set ours up like that, but I think what they've set up is wonderful. I mean, you must have read all of it, didn't
What
you?
makes you say that, though? I question that. What makes you say that?
Well, have you read about,
Right now.
have you gone on Almond's site and looked at all the
Yeah.
background and everything on it?
Absolutely. I guess what makes you say that Caribou can't do that?
Well, I don't
As
think we
opposed
can
to
get the
Ken.
water company here to pay to bring in the line and do all the main work first, which is what they did. And they did it on the basis of they would pay no fees for using it, but they paid the capital cost, right? Putting in all the Ethernet line or the high-speed line to start.
They did
Didn't you
develop
read
some-
that?
There was some sweat equity that was built by the municipality. Is that what you're referring to?
No, I'm referring that the company that looks after the water and sewer
Yeah,
in that city,
yeah.
I think he's maybe read it, they paid to put the line in, high-speed line in. Their agreement with the city was, we will pay the capital cost to put this in, won't cost you anything. You're gonna have to look after it, service it, and we don't wanna have to pay any fees for it in the future. And the city agreed to that. Okay? That's how it started. So they have no capital cost in that. If Caribou could do that with our water and sewer division and have no capital cost, I think that would be wonderful. Now, the second stage, as far as servicing the people, that's set up so that they've asked all the residents in the town, are you interested in this? And if you are, you have to advise the city. As soon as they get people in one block, and I think it was 600 homes. Is that right, Bob?
Thereabouts.
Yeah, if they got 600 people in one area of the city that were interested in having high speed, that's where they would put it. They haven't done this yet, but that's where they will put it. The cost to do that, if you are a resident there and you want high speed internet, $3,000 to set the system up in your house, and then it's done. Or you can pay for it $20 a month for the next 20 years. That's $4,800. And that'll be on your tax bill. So your tax bill will go up $240 right off the bat. If you don't ask to have it done now and you aren't part of this 600 in this area, and 2 years from now you want to put it into your house and you're in that area, it won't be $3,000. It will be more than $3,000.
Very astute observations. That's all I have to say about that. I mean, there are so many communities out there, and I don't know if you're gonna go out there and find some place that's gonna represent 100% of the way that Caribou is represented.
Oh, I don't know if you are either.
And so being able to take from the best and assemble the best package is what this project would allow us to be able to do a better job to identify.
And I think the general concept of what they did, no tax increase into the taxpayer. That's what we're after here. The details there, that's the reason for Tilson getting involved, is to figure those details out, if those details are there.
Well, I'm just gonna say, I mean, if Tilson can figure out that there's gonna be no cost to the taxpayer and can tell us that there won't be, well, I'd be glad to do the study then, if that's the case. I mean, everything I see tells me this is gonna be a cost to the taxpayer. I mean, ominous cost to the taxpayer. You know, it's costing them costing them $240.
You can't sit here and say that. You cannot sit here and say that and with 100% certain that there is a cost to the taxpayer. You don't have that information. Caribou is a totally different town, city than Ammon.
Well, it certainly
and
is
Sandy.
different than Ammon.
Mayor, if what your goal is to, I'll fall on the sword. You can tell me I'm wrong after this project, and I'll stand here, and you can tell me publicly that I was wrong and you were right. If it's that important to you.
No, that's not the important part. I'll tell you what the important part is to me. Doing this study, and I've read Tilson's studies, more than one, that they've done in other communities. And I've read studies that have been done in some of these communities, such as Ammon. And the way the studies are done, and not in Ammon, because this is a different deal. This is unique, and I do think this is great. I love the system. I love the way that they're controlling it all. I love the way that it's public access to anyone else that wants to go on. I love the fact that they're Ammon themselves are charging $16.50, I think, a person to be onto the system for any providers that provide stuff to any citizens. But that is unique. I don't know where else you could do that, because where are you going to get to put in the system first? And are you going to get 600 people in an area, a small enough area, to even put this all into? Ammon is 7.26 square miles, a city. We're talking 80 square miles here in Caribou. And you want to supply this to all the citizens in Caribou. I mean, think about that. Think about the cost of doing that compared to the cost of them doing it. I mean, I don't know. You're also talking about a city that is totally different than us in that it's not a city, it's a suburb. It's a suburb of Idaho Falls.
Mayor,
It's not a city.
All I know is that somebody had mentioned that there's, they could guarantee that, we could do something. The only guarantee that really is at play here is that if we as a city choose to do nothing, then we should expect nothing in return.
Well,
If we want to take advantage and we want to take.
then I'm going to
hold-
ask you, why have you done nothing? You expect nothing in return.
Gary, that's just rude.
No, it's not rude.
That's
And I'll
just
tell you
rude.
why I
No,
say
no,
it.
honestly, it's kind of offensive considering the amount of work that we've all put together.
I'll tell you why I'm
To
saying
say
it.
that we've done nothing,
I'll tell you why I'm saying it.
that's just rude.
You have 3 providers that provide internet service in this city now, at least 3. Okay? How many of them have you sat down with and talked to about what we can do here with them? How many of them?
Again, Gary,
We-
you're totally missing the boat.
You're asking a baby to walk into a.
I'm not
coffee-
missing the boat. The boat that I know that is there is the boat that there are people.
Well, the funny is
that
that you think you know the answers to it, and you don't.
Oh, so you've sat down with the ones that are
No,
providing it now?
the difference is we're a bunch of babies walking into a room. It would be irresponsible to walk into a room with these 3 players and pretend that we know or that we have the information because we read something online. A little bit of knowledge is dangerous, Gary, and I think you're proving that tonight. What we want to have is information so we can make a definitive decision on something that could have a unique and wonderful impact to our community. And this is something, and to say that we've done 0 work, I think is offensive, and I don't understand where your head is at.
All I'm saying is, when you start this committee, whether you do this study or not, why wouldn't you talk to the people that are in this business today? And
For the
ask
sheer
them
fact
what
you-
has to be done and what's
What's been
involved.
done so far for Caribou?
Well,
That would be, you're asking, well, did you forget that we were here? Because we're here and we like this. but
yeah,
you're
and
not
we
giving
do,
it
and
to
we
us.
have internet service here now.
To be
Yes.
fair, all of the telecommunications companies would have interest in Caribou, and they've all expressed interest in what we're doing if we have a fiber network. So it's quite possible that if we had a municipally owned fiber network, that there'd be third-party operators that would want to get involved.
Oh, yeah, I understand that, but if you have a municipally owned network, you have cost involved.
Yep.
You have a cost involved.
You'd have
And-
revenue coming in from the leasing of the fiber and that type of thing to cover those costs, hopefully. And that's what the study would tell us how much you'd
That's the
have to
key
add.
word, hopefully.
And that's where the study would come in to tell you what, all these variables that none of us know the answers to.
The world is gonna start developing the internet to react to these federal standards, and we're not there. And at some point in time, we're being left behind. I mean, if the school's going to there, the federal standards are going there, and we do not have the backbone to provide that to all of our citizens. Wouldn't it be wonderful if we had an initiative that actually took care of bringing Caribou together and not just look at the compact zone and the rural zone, that this was something that we all owned? Wouldn't that be novel?
Oh, I understand that part. All I'm saying is, if it isn't here today, and if private companies aren't willing to do it, why aren't they willing to do it?
Gary, I don't have time to give you a business education, but I will try to repeat myself again. If you have a limited amount of resources as a private company, and you have...
Sort of like the city does. Limited amount of resources.
The point that I'm trying to make, Gary, is that if you've got $1 million that you can spend on building out a network, Caribou may not be your first choice, and that's what's happening. And you would ask the question, well, why doesn't Mike Quinlan build?
I think I did question that.
Yeah, well, it's because of the fact that it doesn't make sense for me in the private sector where I want a 30% return on my investment, where I can spend my efforts elsewhere to get 30%. And the city could
Can you
maybe
give me a
get
30% return on mine right now? Because he's only giving me 1% or half a
Every
percent.
day I get up and I start working on my computer and start interacting with my clients. It's the highest and best use of my time. However, if the city could maybe reap, I don't know, 15 or 17% of a profit margin, that may be nice enough for a municipality. And again, in the future, we may not necessarily see the internet as a for-profit industry.
Very true.
So operating in that would not be one's highest and best use of time in a regulated commodity market. Not for me. I need to be out in the private sector getting 130%. I'm not saying that these numbers are where it's at. I'm trying to illustrate a concept to answer your question. And I hope I've done it.
So why would we be any different than a lot of these other communities in Maine that are about the same size as we are, and with the same amount of people roughly, to what they're looking at doing? Why would we be any different than that?
Because we're unique. Every situation, every facts and circumstances are unique to the situation. Any situation that you find, you're going to find that you're not going to find Caribou out there that's already done this and been successful.
No, I know that, because I've spent hundreds of hours looking already, and I can't find one. So,
And
no,
what
I
we're
do
looking
agree
at
with
is
that.
trying to use TIF money to find money that's not going to increase the taxes for the taxpayers. We're going to be able to utilize these funds that could have a nice economic windfall for us for many years to come, because we chose to invest in our. We don't even know if that's what's going to be one of the outcomes, but our mind is open to a myriad of different options that could come our way.
Can I say something?
Yeah, go ahead.
I went to my own consultant, who is a software developer, and he's based in Austin, Texas. He used to be in Aroostook County in Presque Isle. They started their business in Presque Isle. Fiber optics was there. They had the 50 megabytes. They moved mostly not because the internet was there and the fiber optics were there, but because the people that they needed to develop the software they were working on were in the hubs, okay? Now, so I went to him and I asked him some questions. First of all, they are an software developer with 9 employees, and he said we don't use more than 10 to 20 megabytes. He said we've got 50 megabytes. He said we've got the Time Warner Business 50, and he said we've never gone that high. He said the idea of putting high-speed internet into every residence in Caribou, he said it's unrealistic because they don't need it. Most people don't realize that they don't need it or can't use it.
Is their software hosted in the cloud or local on their,
Honestly, I
because
don't.
that would have a huge impact on their
Yeah.
business model.
But the residences, for one thing, for that high-speed internet, he said they wouldn't use it. He said it would be like living in a 25-mile-an-hour zone all around you and having a car that goes 100 miles an hour, but you can't drive it because you don't need it. And he said most people don't realize what they need. I also spoke to a person who worked at Time Warner for years, and she said people would come in and say, I hate my internet service, I hate this, it's so slow, it doesn't work. When actually, it was their software or the computer itself that they needed. They didn't know what they need. They don't know. They think they can use this high-speed internet. I have worked in my home for 15 years on a 17, mine tests out to 17. I have the same, absolutely the same software as Kiefer's or FAP body. I work out of my home. Not once in 15 years have I ever had a problem.
Well, we
with
wouldn't
anything
want
like
to
that.
make decisions
Well,
at this forum. We wouldn't want to make decisions based solely on our individual experience.
that's right. But the thing is, we've got fiber optics in some areas now.
What we've
okay?
tried to do is educate a little bit about the internet that's coming at us.
That's right.
Standards are federally being mandated
Yeah.
to be a certain way, so the internet itself is asking for a higher broadband.
The internet itself is asking for a higher broadband, but if you're not going to use it, and again, it's not something, I don't believe that it's the city's responsibility or whatever you want to call it to bring this. I understand that Pioneer is about 1.5 years out from Caribou. So they're going to be coming. And we've got fiber optics on Main Street. If we've got a business that wants to come in and say, oh, I want to open up a call center or whatever, bring them to where that fiber optic is and maybe help them through some TIF funds maybe or whatever to get their business set up. But to spend $46,000 on a study that I don't know what it'll tell us or what not, but the point is, even if it says yes, you should be, in doing this, where are you going to get the money? I mean, we can't charge the taxpayers, $1 million on their tax bill, and the people that come and they will say to you,
Joe, it's
no, wait a
irresponsible.
minute.
Joe, no.
They
with all
will
due
say to
Joe,
you,
with all due respect, it's irresponsible this conversation is happening at a level
Well-
that making a comment that we're going to put $1 million on the
we don't
on the
know how
backs
much
of
we're
the
going
of the
to.
taxpayers.
Well, we don't know, but what this said.
Joe,
right
there
here,
is nowhere in any of the
Okay.
documentation that you're going to find that we want to put $1 million on the taxpayers.
You said, first and foremost, no one wants to put the taxpayers on the hook for millions of dollars for no good reason. Well, that's what I'm saying, is that we may or we may not, but we're not going to know until somebody starts coming in and hooking or telling you what it's going to cost. We already know that it's going to cost $15,000 to $20,000 per mile to run fiber optics. That was already told to us. I think that this needs to stay.
What happens if there's an opportunity? I don't even know if this is the case, Joan, but to make the assumptions, I now have to make an assumption to be able to make an argument to have this conversation with you. But I would submit to you that we don't have this information to be able to make these wild claims in an environment like this. But I would say to you, what happens if there's an opportunity for us to use some of our own equity, our own sweat equity to build out something? Could that offset the cost? I don't know.
Well,
I would
maybe-
like to have the information to be
Maybe you
able to
can
help
find
with
this
that.
out. I agree. Maybe you should be going to Fairpoint or Time Warner and seeing what they've got to offer and what they can help you do, if anything. But I don't know that a city should be even going into a type of business where you're going against the competitors or whatever and possibly putting
So you
money
would like
on
me
the
to
line.
go into a situation where I'm uneducated, into the lion's den with the folks that are currently choosing not to invest in here to say, what can I do to please get you to invest in here?
I don't believe that they're not going to invest in here. What I'm saying, it's going to take time to get here, just like anything else. but I don't believe that we
Joan, what I'm
should
trying to
be-
tell you is that while we're
using-
waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting, it may never come.
If somebody
While
comes
the world is
into
passing
town,
us by, Joan.
if somebody comes into town and says, gee, do you have this and do you have this and can we, bring a business into town? You've got the fiber optics. Obviously, there are people already connected to high speed. You've got a 50, you've got the opportunity to get 50 megabytes from Time Warner Business Class for a lot of areas. And that is plenty at this point in time to do a lot of what the small businesses, and if you've got a big business like Google, it's gonna come in, they'll handle it. So they'll take care of finding what they need to hook up. I'm just
See,
saying.
I'm not a big fan of the idea that if you build it, they will come.
No, I don't think
And I will tell
it
you right
will.
now, that if we choose not to do any building, nobody will come. And Joan, this conversation is gonna take a different, this whole thing is gonna take a different tone. And we're gonna need to understand how you folks are choosing to lead this city and where you think our business development dollars need to go. Because what I'm telling you is that we really think that there is a lot of business opportunity, safety and security as it relates to police and fire, education. Internet is more than just checking your email on the
Of
weekends,
course.
Joan.
Of course it is.
And it
Of
is a
course
much
it
more
is.
complicated scenario than what we're talking about here. We have a moral responsibility to find opportunities for us. And I'm telling you right now, if we're waiting for-profit to figure it out and to invest in here, Joan. If
We
you
have
look
a
at the
moral, we have a moral responsibility to take care of the taxpayers' dollars. And
Yes.
even TIF funds isn't going to increase their tax bill right now. That is still comes from taxpayers' dollars. And we have a moral obligation to guard that money and not spend
we
it.
will agree to
You know.
disagree as to what that
Yeah.
moral use is.
So
And I would say that I have a plan for some of it, Joan. And if not, what is your plan to use that TIF money?
to use the TIF money.
Is it to just make decisions as they come across your desk? Or do you have a strategic plan for the city?
We can look for something,
We can't, no,
we can look,
we have.
if you want to hire a consultant on something, why not talk to somebody maybe that looks at the area and says, well, maybe this isn't exactly what you should go into, but maybe this is.
Joan, you're
We're-
speaking in such a
I-
theoretical standpoint. You've done nothing to be
Our
able to...
location
If I asked the Wizard of
limits
Oz, would he
us.
come too?
Our location limits to what people,
And who would that be, Joan? What's the phone number?
what?
To call this Wizard of Oz that's gonna come fix our issues.
No, if you want, there must be consultants out there that will
To do
come
what?
and look at your area and say, okay, maybe this won't work, but let's, because you're remote, because you are a cold climate, then try the Four Seasons or try retirement places or something like that. Try something that's going to adapt to this area. That's why a lot of people, and that's why this business had to move out of Presque Isle to go to Austin, was to get the talent because it was down there.
Because they didn't have
They
the
don't
employees.
know. They don't want the people, the techies, the 25 to 40.
And why do you think the
Age group.
techies and the 20s, why do you think they're not moving here?
The climate, number one, climate.
Okay, yeah.
Okay, that's the biggest thing.
Okay.
They like their nightlife. They like the hub. It's a big area. A lot of them don't even drive. Transportation is another one. The younger ones, they'll leave.
Get axe.
Arts. I mean, I'm just telling you that I don't feel that this is something that we should be spending that money on.
I believe that you
Okay.
believe that.
You're, Joan, you're actually making a case for, one of the big things with this region and this community is young people moving away. And you're actually making the case to keep young people here. I mean, this is a reason to keep the young people here in this
I
community.
don't think it'll keep them here. I don't. I really
I believe
don't.
that you believe that.
I do, because I've talked to many of my friends who have grandchildren, younger ones, when they graduate. They want to go sow their wild oats. They'll probably come back in 15 or 20 years. My daughter left 3 times and came back. My sister left, 100 times, came back, and now she's gone again. I don't believe that having high-speed internet is gonna keep the young people, all the young people.
And I believe
if
that you
they wanna
believe that,
go.
Joe.
I do, I do.
And I think you're a wonderful person, by the way, Joe.
And I like you too. But I'm telling you, we're gonna agree to disagree, because I don't think we should be spending the money on that, on something
But
that
Joe,
we can find out.
this is what this money was meant for. There's a lot of good that could come out of this,
Yeah.
and you know what? And at the end of the day, it decides that, you know, this is a door that could be closed. There are going to be very few opportunities for us to be able to jump out there safely in the environment and find something that we could potentially generate some additional revenue from.
I think that it's
And
gonna
if
come
you
on
think
its own.
differently, I would think,
Yeah.
where are some other safe ways for us to increase revenue besides pulling that property tax lever?
You know, I don't have that answer for you right now. I really don't.
So
But I
why
think-
close the door on this?
We're not closing the door. The door is open, and the businesses, they will come. It will come.
Yes,
Like I
Joe.
said, broadband, they
At
said that
some
they're
point in
about,
time,
yeah,
it may.
a year and a half or so out.
You-
That's what he said. That's
I
well, they're in
honestly-
Sherman, for heaven's sakes.
Yeah, but that was because they got some federal mandated
Yeah,
monies.
okay.
Now, we are also, you know, it would be interesting if maybe we did attach ourselves to something that included Woodland maybe, because they actually meet the same criteria as Sherman. But there's a reason why that happened.
Yeah.
It's not just because Pioneer decided, let's do
Well,
this.
they got the money to do it, but I was told that they're about a year and a half out, and I think they'll be here eventually, just like
Who did you hear
everything
that
else
from,
will.
Joe?
I'm trying to remember, and I cannot remember who told me. I really can't. It was last week or so when we were talking.
You know, we conducted a survey that produced some interesting results. We didn't go out and ask 50 people that we know and complete an unscientific survey to help us determine what it is.
This one right here. About 350 people answered it.
Scientifically, we went about this in a way that allowed us to be able to, in an unbiased way, present to you some opinions and some facts and
Right.
circumstances that are out there.
And probably out of about 6,000 people who are old enough to answer. I know I answered it, and everybody wants faster internet. They'll say, yeah, I want the computer to go faster, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it's because they don't have fast enough internet. It probably means it's their computer.
So what percentage of the time, Joan, is it the computer versus the internet?
I think it's a good amount, especially anybody
Good
that's
amount.
using it.
Does that mean more than 50%
Oh,
of the time
yeah.
it's the computer?
I bet you it is. I bet you it is. Because, especially for residences, because they don't need that kind of speed. And what the former employee of Time Warner told me, she said, just about all the time when they came in.
And
it
if you
was
talk
not
to a
in.
tech support person, they're probably, the first question they usually ask is your computer running?
Of course it's running.
Did you reboot it?
They'll tell you that it's running.
Yeah.
But what they're finding out is that they're running Windows 98. Or they're running some, an antiquated. And this survey, like 305 said yes, they have internet, and 31 said no. Well, maybe the 31 didn't
Joan,
want
what do
it.
you have plans for this money? Specifically speaking,
Specifically
actionable Eddie, what do
speaking-
you have that's on your docket that you're ready to put forth that's
I
going to
don't
allow us
have
to look
any
at something?
specific plans for that money, but, however, we have got some serious bills coming up.
I'm not even on the city council, Joan,
We've got-
and I have a plan for it.
And how many times
How is
have I
that
told you to
interesting?
run?
I know.
How many times?
And
And
I-
I don't
and
want
I-
to sit here and take up the time and argue with you. My vote would be no, that's
Okay.
all I'm saying. That's,
I think we just got through a 3-year deal, a $50,000 a year. Okay, so we got some stuff, and $50,000 a year is not a whole lot of money to invest into economic development.
But, this 50,000 isn't economic development because, in
It
my
could
mind,
lead to it.
it may tell you gotta invest 15 million in economic development.
But if you were going to make a gajillion, numbers are numbers unless you tell the whole story.
I know that, and that's,
But just by pulling out like these big audacious numbers and trying to scare people, that's scare tactics. It's an uneducated way to
well,
get your
I'm not
point
picking up
across.
big audacious numbers. I mean, I looked at the study that Tilson did down in Rockland, Rockport and that.
Yeah.
Which is, that area is got 151 miles of road.
Okay.
We got 150 here, Austin. I think this is our number. So you'd have to say right off the bat, their cost is going to be almost identical to what our cost is. Probably very,
How
very
can you
close.
state that? how can you sit there and state that confidently that their costs can be exactly what our
I
costs are gonna
didn't,
be?
I said similar,
Similar, okay.
you know, because it's the same area basically that you're covering.
The
And it's the
idea
same
is
amount
to be-
of residences and premises that you're covering.
This is, the idea is to run this like an enterprise fund. This is not something that's just gonna be added on to people's tax bill.
I understand that, but then my point is, where is it being run as an enterprise fund now where it's making money? I mean, you keep saying about,
We
Making
provided examples.
which,
We've provided examples. They're running in the black in, what's the community?
Sandy, Oregon, Ammon, Idaho, Chattanooga, Tennessee.
well, Ammon, Idaho used to run in the block because they had no capital cost. We're gonna have capital cost, aren't we? Or is somebody gonna do this all?
Their business model is not necessarily something that we would adopt 100%.
Well,
So
no,
it's-
because
you
we're not
can't-
gonna get anybody to
you
pay for
can't
it.
just- You can't just overlay it and say yay or nay. There may be hues of different ways that we try to incorporate to make something that's specific to our region and our facts and circumstances.
I must admit, I didn't have a lot of time to look at Sandy because that wasn't one I had looked at.
I love
in the
that you
past.
look through this stuff, Gary, I really do.
Huh?
I love that you look through this stuff.
Well, I did go
sincerely
through
do.
Sandy's and I did see that they're not making any money now.
Being devil's advocate is a wonderful way for us all to make sure that the decision, if it should ever come to pass, that we have people that are willing to just not say yay just because it's the flashy thing to do or you don't want to feel. But quite frankly, I think it's irresponsible for us to not look at this as a viable opportunity for this community.
I've never said I'm not looking at it as a viable opportunity. I'm looking at it as an opportunity. I don't think it's that viable. That's all.
Like I said,
Not-
if you need
not
me to come
because-
back here so
and
you can
only
tell me
because
how
the
you were so right,
municipality has
Gary,
to be
then you
involved.
can do that. I don't mind trying to get to this information if it means being told, aha, I told you so.
Yeah.
If that's that important.
I don't
Gary,
like paying $47,000 to say I told you so. I guess that's and my other concern, which I never got a chance to finish at the start, was the fact that I'm not so much against the study. I know how the study is going to come back.
Why don't you put yourself out there, Gary? Why don't you open up a consulting firm?
I have one, as a matter of fact.
Well, can
You
we
wanna
hire you?
me?
How come you didn't put in a request for proposal on this?
Because I wasn't interested in this,
Ah.
in doing it. But I have a consulting firm if you want
If
to.
you think this was too much money and you could have been the one to do that, why wouldn't you, if this was the highest and best use of your time?
No, it isn't. Actually, when I look at Tilson's consulting rates, mine are a little higher than theirs, so. Didn't think it was my kind of thing.
You don't even have to try it.
Most of mine's food industry.
I wish you would have provided us during the process of the RFP with that insight.
Again, I'll just make a couple comments about Sandy, because I haven't really had a big, long look at it, and I usually go into this stuff in quite a lot of depth. In their promotion, they said they needed 35% take rate to make this break even, pay for itself, whatever. And they're now at a 60% rate, which to me means they should be making all kinds of money. They have a very small area. There are only 3 square miles there, the city. It's not like Caribou. When I look at their budget, the little bit that I could draw off and look at right now, and this isn't an audited one. Usually I try to get audited reports on all of these places. They haven't made any money yet, but there is a little note on their budget. Internet access fees are projected to increase due to the need to accommodate more fiber customer traffic and allow for increased redundancy. So if they only needed 35% to break even, why are they increasing the rates already? I mean, there's something here again that someone there hasn't looked at when they put together their system and put it in, and now they're finding out that as many of these other places that I've looked at and gathered, that capital cost for this thing, this isn't something you put in like a basic utility and it's good for 10 years. It's something that 2 or 3 years you got to start.
Gary,
updating
describe for
equipment
me
and so
the
on.
vision you have for Caribou. As mayor of the city, I want you to paint me a picture as to where you see this city in the next 5 to 10 to 15 years.
Where I see it.
Yes, sir. You have this post as a responsibility. I'm sure you have a plan in place for our city.
No, I don't. I mean, the city manager, I would think, would have one, because He's a paid employee.
So
that-
are you aware of what his 5 and 10 and 15 years mayor of the city, are you aware of what that economic business growth plan is for our city?
For 5, 10, and 15 years? Don't
Yeah.
have one.
Okay. Do you have any plan for any of this money?
Do I have?
Yes.
Do you expect me to have one?
I expect you as a member of this council to have an input as to where the
I will
direction
have
of the
an
city
input
is.
on, I will
So
have
you
an
only have
input
an input
on
if
plans
asked.
that are put forward, and.
So you don't plan, so you can invest a significant amount of time in telling people this isn't a good idea, but you will not spend your wise consulting time.
Oh, I've already
in trying to
made
provide
some
us-
suggestions. I
Right,
made
you
some
wanted us to go
suggestions
to
here.
Canada.
I think the
who
last
has-
meeting
who's
we were
a-
at,
Who's
that-
a socialist economy, and you want us to overlay that on a capitalistic. That
well,
was your
No,
insight.
no, I wouldn't say it's a social.
Well, that's what I gleaned on the last meeting,
Oh,
based on what you said.
I don't think I said a socialist economy, but,
Well, you said go to Canada to find what they're doing over the border.
yeah. Yeah, all those stores are socialist up there, I think, that decided to build.
Canada is a socialistic economy. We are a capitalistic,
Okay.
modified, if
There
you
are a
will,
lot of people here in this country would argue that with you, but,
at its core.
yeah.
We're just looking to get more information. That's all we're looking to do. I understand you think that it's, and if you could do it, you know,
And I think this comes back to our meetings with the CDGB, I'm sorry, not CDGB,
CEGC.
CEGC. And our vision, or maybe it's the lack thereof, but, you know, to have some economic development portion. And right now, we do not. And so the Broadband Coalition took it upon ourselves to find that next avenue. And one of my concerns is there's no vision here. What are we doing for economic development?
You know, I guess if this would have been handled in a different way, I might have been more agreeable. I mean, I get back again, I can't believe that we haven't talked to the providers that are there now to try to see what can be done. And then if they say there's nothing that can be done, then maybe you could be talking about, well, what other possibilities are there? How do we handle this? I mean, you got people that are advertising in all the main municipalities about, you know, thinking about a broadband development project in your town, let's talk. Fair point. You know, the guy from Pioneer tells me he wanted to sit in with the committee to talk about what could be done here in Caribou, and he was told that no, he's not needed. God, if I'm trying to do something in some kind of a business, I would love to talk to the people that are involved. And if you're saying you're not an expert, so you don't know what they're going to tell you, well, but at least you're gathering information, which is what you're saying you're trying to do here, is gather information and knowledge. Do you not think you'd learn something just by talking to these people? I mean,
Did you get a chance to talk to them?
who?
All these companies, Fairpoint?
No, I'm not involved with this process, so. Counselor Martin?
It would take one of the people that voted not to do this study to change their mind to bring it up again. Is there one
That's
of you
correct.
willing to do that?
Well, I wasn't here in the original one. I'll agree to
Can,
go forward with it.
can somebody who was not
Because it's
here
economic development.
reconsider, ask for a reconsideration?
It's a majority of those present that can vote on the topic. So yes.
I mean, just one more question. Have we looked at all about, you know, I have two young fellows myself. I got two boys that are, and you know, everything's on the internet with them, but it's all on the smartphone. They don't have broadband. They're not even interested in, they do it all on the phone. And you know, I just pulled a thing off that shows that that's growing. I mean, it's grown by 6.5% from 2013 to 2015. People that use their phones to do all this stuff.
Gary, that's broadband. I don't know what you're talking about. But the average person who has a phone is using, I'm gonna guess, this is probably pretty darn close, that probably 88% of their internet usage is based on Wi-Fi usage with the backbone is the broadband,
well,
and not the
I don't know if you've
satellite
seen,
data.
I don't know if you've seen this study that Pew put out. Broadband at home has decreased by 4.5%. smartphones but no broadband at home has gone up by 6.5%. And that's what my boys are. They don't have broadband at home. They just have a phone and look, I'm not into the phone
I'm
deal at all.
telling you that a wild majority of smartphone usage, data usage, is going to be on Wi-Fi, with the backbone being broadband.
It's just a different device. Instead of a computer, it's a phone.
But the internet
But they're not
usage-
doing it at home. They don't require broadband at home, right? That's what I'm saying.
I'm
But
telling you
there's a
that
fiber-
Broadband at home is decreasing
The
according
fiber
to
would
this.
go to the cell towers there rather than to the individual home. There's a fiber backbone.
So for instance, if you wanted to go to Verizon and get a family plan for 10 gigs a month, if you go over the 10 gigs a month, things start getting pretty expensive pretty quick. More than likely, a home of 3 people, I'm going to say, is probably north of 200 to 300 gigs a month. So if
But
you
isn't
don't,
there some of them that are unlimited?
well, let's talk about that. That's a question of net neutrality, and what they're doing is they're actually throttling back. You may find that most of these cell phone companies are actually limiting your Netflix, your YouTube, any of the big data hogs out there. They'll actually take you from your broadband speed and dial you right down if you go over your allotment. And if you notice and you listen to some of the marketing, they don't really use the unlimited marketing approach anymore, because it's just not viable in the for-profit
So
sector.
you think this thing will probably reverse, this trend will probably reverse then?
I can guarantee you that you're talking probably 90% of most people have an internet connection at home that broadcasts a Wi-Fi signal, that they utilize these devices that also happen to have a data. Because if you don't, you'd be getting a $1,000 a month phone bill.
And like I say, I'm not a phone person, but I was amazed when I saw this, but then I thought, I got 2 boys, they do the same thing. They don't have broadband at home, they have a smartphone, and that's the way they do everything on that. All their email, all their banking, everything is done on that.
From what I understand of you go to Walmart and pay $45 for a track phone, for lack of a better phrase. I can't remember some of the other names that are out there, but your experience at paying your fixed amount of $45 with the limited amount is a phenomenally drastic different experience than being on broadband. And quite frankly, we don't have the numbers to be able to back up.
That's
what
all I,
percentage.
see, I'm a track phone, that's all I am. It costs me $99 a year for my phone,
Yeah.
that's it.
I wish
But I don't use it to go on the internet.
Yeah.
Anyway, there's that
Could I
question.
just ask a question? Obviously, we're not gonna give any word tonight. Is it possible for us to go back and do a little bit more research and come back again at a future date?
Yeah,
To
I
discuss
don't,
it further, is that a possibility?
yeah, look, like I said, I think the committee should keep going. But my opinion is,
And this
I
time
think
we'll
the
talk to
committee
some
should
of
talk
the-
to some of the people that are out there now
Let's just say we talk to some of those people.
and see what they can do for us.
And see what timeframes they're talking about,
Yeah,
and maybe take in the Tilson study and run in some basic numbers and seeing what's physically possible or
Yeah.
not. And-
sounds like a great idea.
Is that okay?
Yeah,
Great.
all right. We're just about ready to start regular meeting time, that one.